Hello, hello. Love seeing all of the faces pop on screen in meeting view, which is what we are doing today. So welcome everyone. Today is Thursday, January 5th, and we are here for our January Planning Momentum webinar. And really what this is meant to do is to help you get settled as you start to plan out your month. And, if you are getting started in using the Momentum app, how to go about doing that quickly and easily. So a few points of housekeeping before we dive in. So today we are in meeting view. Right now, you're all coming in, it seems, off screen. You are welcome to stay off screen. You are also welcome to pop on. Would love to see your smiling faces. Makes my job much easier, but feel free to stay off screen. And then also currently everyone's coming in as muted. I'm going to be doing some walkthroughs, but then really what I want to do is get us very quickly to a Q&A session. So any question that you have about monthly planning, and then because at the time of year that we're in, quarterly or the start of the year planning, any questions that you have, we'll be open to answering any and all, and excited to do that. So this is our second month of doing these webinar series. So we are going to be doing 2 of these webinars every month. The start of the month, we're going to be doing this monthly planning session, and we'll talk about the monthly planner in Momentum, and specifically we will think about what's happening around that time of year, and so that we can kind of really set our plans around what's going on in real life. And middle of the month, we're going to be doing what we call our Get Started webinars, and that's going to be focused more on the weekly view, and really what are those elements to just get you started and build momentum as you start using Momentum. So with that, I am going to start sharing my screen, and we can dive right into Momentum. So first and foremost, I always like to start with, how do we find Momentum? So if you are a registered user, you have signed up, it's always going to be at, sorry, my screen is app. Sorry, we have a lot of people coming in, and app.hellomomentum.app. And that's going to take you to our login screen. Another option is to go to our hellomomentum.app website, where you'll find a lot of great information, but we also have this wonderful login button at the top of the screen that will also take you directly to the sign-in page. Also very much recommend you bookmark this page either in your desktop or laptop browser, or if you're on a mobile device, a tablet or a phone, we have instructions on how you can create a little app icon so you can go directly to it. With that, I'm going to log in, and today I'm going to play the role of systems at Productive Flourishing and get us logged in. So what Momentum will automatically do is bring you to the week you are currently in. You can change this setting in the settings in the upper right-hand corner of the screen if you want, but I like to do it because the week is really that place when you are getting started that you're going to probably be referencing most often. But today we want to look at the month and the quarter and the year. So there's a few ways to navigate to those. You'll see up here in the header, there is January, and you can click on that and find your way to the January planner. You also can click this little caret button, and you can select any of the months that you're looking to go to. And then lastly, up here in the upper left, there's a drop-down menu where you can find 2023, and then you can from there navigate to the months, or even if you wanted to, into the weeks. So for right now, let's start, since we're at the start of the new year, it is January 5th. I don't know how that happened. Let's actually start at what does the yearly planner look like? And I'm doing this not because you need to, sorry, I'm just going to fix the resolution on my screen. My screen is a little bit long, too big for me to see all at once. Not because the year is where you need to start. I think a lot of people have the misconception that in order to plan, you have to start from the biggest time horizon and then break things down. That's what we would call top-down planning. But you can start from whatever time horizon feels comfortable for you. Often I find the year can be really difficult to start planning, especially this early in January, which feels counterintuitive, but the year can be really hard to get a grasp of unless you have projects that are maybe very specific. You know exactly at the end of this year what the outcome is that you're looking for. And if that is the case, absolutely you can start with the yearly if that is comfortable for you. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through each of the sections on this planner, and then I'll also do the quarterly and the monthly. And as we'll go, we'll kind of walk you through how to actually use some of the features. If you have any questions as we go, please do put them in the chat, or you can use the raise hand function that you'll find at the bottom of your Zoom screen. Happy to answer questions as we go, and also happy to answer your questions at the end. I'm going to ask my team, we have quite a few of our Productive Flourishing team members here. I'm going to ask them to be monitoring the chat as well, helping you along the way, or calling out if there's any questions, because it's hard for me to present and look at chat at the same time, as much as I enjoy the chatty group of people we often have on these webinars. All right, so for the yearly planner, you're going to see what we see on all of our planner screens. You have on the left-hand side is what we call our planning side, and on the right side is what we call our dashboard. So you can think of this left-hand side really as putting in the realities, the things that are happening, and the constraints by which you might be, whether it's the year, the quarter, whatever horizon you're in. And then the dashboard view over here is really showing you how that period of time is going to play out. So for the quarter, it's really looking at how for the year, it's looking at how each quarter might play out. If you happen to be looking at this on a mobile device, you're going to see it a little bit differently, where you're going to see the planner view button over here, and then the dashboard is just a toggle away. So I'm going to just move my screen so it's back to, you can see everything all at once.
Hey, Megan.
Absolutely.
We do have a quick question from April.
Okay.
There's two questions, actually. She'd like to know, one, how is it possible, or is it possible, to show all 24 hours? Seems like it always stops at about 11 o'clock, so 2200. She'd like to see it end at about 2300 instead. Or I'm sorry, 2200 is 10 o'clock. I know things. And the second question is, are you able to have two separate calendars? One maybe for family and one maybe for work.
So I'm going to answer that second question first. So Momentum, we built for your full life, because you have one pool of energy. And for us, a project, we talk a lot in projects, a project is anything that takes your time, your energy, and your attention. And so by that definition, there's no, your personal projects and your work projects are all part of that one pool of time, that one pool of energy, that one pool of attention that you have. So we very much suggest and recommend using momentum, not just for your work and not just for your personal, but for your full life, right? So one of the key facets that we kind of use when planning is called the 5-project rule. And that is no more than 5 active projects per time horizon. And so what that means is at any given time, so throughout the year, throughout a certain quarter, throughout a certain week, you're really only focused on 5 projects. And when we're thinking of those 5 projects, we account for both personal and professional. So if you're going to do 5 projects, and you do not have to do 5 at any given time point, you can, we often recommend that we do, at least 2 of those 5 are personal. So thinking about what is important to you and what is important to your family and your personal life. And that, when we often tell people that, it can feel really constrictive. But the beauty of that is it really allows you to focus in on the things that matter and move those things forward, as opposed to feeling very stretched across a lot of different things. And here, what momentum does here is with these different time horizons, as we'll go through each of them, it lets you kind of see how those bigger projects might move into the smaller pieces, or those smaller projects might grow into bigger projects. So April, did that answer your second question?
It says yes.
Excellent. As for your first question, I think what you are asking for is actually related to the day view, which you can always get to today's schedule by going to this today button up here. And what it's showing here is, on this dashboard view, that you get a full view of your day. This is based off of the hours that you have set as working hours. So you can change that by clicking your little avatar or your initials that appear up here on the upper right and going to settings. And I'm going to move some things up here. And here we have the time format. This is if you are in US, we usually do the 12-hour, the 1 o'clock AM, 1 o'clock PM, or I know other parts of the world like to use the 24-hour clock. And you can also set what day of the week you start on, either Sunday or Monday. I personally prefer Monday in my personal calendar, but we have it set to the Sunday for our, this is our team sample calendar. And then these working hours here at the bottom, where you can include your start time. And right now it's set to 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. And that's why you see that here in the dashboard. You can change those to whatever suits you. Why we do it, we try to keep it within, for the most of us, 12 hours is really the amount of time we're going to be scheduling things on our calendar during any given day. But I understand people have different needs. Some people work, earlier in the day to, earlier in the evening, or vice versa. So you can go in and set those to whatever works for you. So April, did that answer your second question?
She says it is helpful, but it still is ending at 10 p.m. no matter, even if she changes it to 23:59.
Got it.
So I'm actually thinking that might be a bug. I'm going to pass it on to our development team.
Thank you, Oshi. Yep, I think that is a bug. And thank you for noting that, April, because it's hard to kind of see every single circumstance. So I love that you are trying to make, you're working to make the planner work for you. And in doing so, please do, if you find any of those weird quirks, please do let us know. All right.
Thanks, Megan. I'll let you get back to it. We do have a couple of other questions once you get to weekly and monthly, but go ahead and keep going, and I'll pop in here with that question whenever it makes sense.
Awesome. Thank you, O'Shea. Yeah, let's focus in on, because we'll focus on the yearly, the quarterly, and the monthly, and then can take your questions on any and all time horizons. But just because we're in that start of the month, of the quarter, of the year, and I know a lot of people are working to start building out their planners. All right, so I'm just going to go through piece by piece fairly quickly. So in the upper left here, we have this year's projects. Right now, we don't have anything included. This is really about those bigger goals that you want to accomplish over the course of the year. That doesn't necessarily mean that every yearly project has 4 separate quarter projects. Sometimes our yearly projects, last us 8 months. But if it's going to extend more than a quarter, it's kind of a year-size project. So for me, I'm going to suggest, like I was saying before, often year can be hard to get our head wrapped around, and you might still be in January, might still be in an assessing and planning stage. And if you're there, that's okay. If the year, trying to fill out the year is preventing you from actually moving projects forward, let it go for now and move on to either the quarterly or monthly to kind of start getting you moving. You can always come back. We actually think February is like Groundhog's Day is kind of our New Year's Day. February can be a really great reset after you have a full month in the year to get to know what are the projects that, I will actually happen this year. But if you wanted to add a yearly project, it's as simple as clicking the add yearly project. So I'm going to use, for our intents and purposes, we have a kind of a big happenings going on this year. And one of those is Charlie, our co-founder, is coming out with his 3rd book, Team Habits, on August 1st. And that is a big project. The manuscript is written, but there's still a lot to do in order for us to have a successful launch on August 1st. And then there's going to be some other things that happen post August 1st. So I'm going to say for the year, it's have a successful launch of Team Habits. That can easily break down into what does it mean to have a successful launch into different quarterly projects. For right now, I'm going to let the colors go. Know that the colors here are to be used for you. And if colors kind of as an organizational system don't work for you, you don't need to use them. There's no set right or wrong reason to use them. We are going to be having a post in the near future, unless it might have gone up already, about different suggestions for using the colors in the planner. But for now, I'm going to let that go. And I'm going to hit save. And you can see we now have 1 project in for the year. And it's letting me know I have 1 up here. So that indicates to me, if that gets over 5, it's an indicator to me to go, okay, I'm probably taking on too many things over the course of the year. But I'm going to keep going. So in the yearly planner, we also have values, themes, or challenges. And these could be actually helpful as you're starting to think about what you might want your yearly projects to be. So what do we mean by, so values are really the qualities that guide how you make decisions, right? So that might be a value of being a compassionate person. That might be a value of freedom and independence. Themes are, they're kind of like resolutions. A lot of people have, pick words for the year to really kind of just guide the actions that we might take throughout the year. So I know a friend of mine just shared that their word of the year is boundaries. I've used words of the year like growth or grace as just reminders that as I go through my year that, it's that I'm in a period of growth, and that therefore there's going to be, it's going to be challenging, but it's all for that higher purpose. So I I love using kind of words or themes. You might find balance or, kind of leverage or maybe travel. Maybe a theme is you want to travel more now that the world has started to open up. So I'm going to invite everybody, if you happen to have a word of the year and you're comfortable sharing it, it's always helpful to see what other people's kind of themes for the year are. So if you want to share those in chat, please do. Do not feel compelled to do so, but we like to share here. And then finally, the third category here, challenges, are really just helping you is there something that I keep getting stuck on, or is there something that I am challenged with? These can be really helpful in guiding projects because say you have a challenge of I have poor cash flow. You might then pick projects for the year or throughout the year that are helping you to address that challenge. So these really here are just to help kind of you think through what are the values, what are the themes, what are the challenges that are going to help me guide me as I go through this year. So I'm going to, for now, I'm just going to say growth as a theme. And so you just type it in, and then in the category drop down, you can see, do I want to choose that as a value, theme, or challenge? I'm going to put that as theme, and then I'm going to hit save. And now we have those. And again, it's keeping count of what we're putting in here. And then finally, in the both in the yearly and in the quarterly planner, we have these major events. This is not here to say, I got to go through 12 months and put in every single meeting and every single item that's on my calendar. These are really to help guide you as you're looking at your quarters as things that you might need to keep your eye on. So like I said, major event for us is Team Habits launch. And that's happening on August 1st. So I'm just going to scroll. And there we go. And then since it's, you have to put in a start time and an end time for these events. So if it's all day, you can, choose what works for you. I'm for now, I'm going to just put 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. And you can see there, I typed in the 9 a.m. with the colon and the 00. And then here I put 5 p.m., just 5 p.m. and hit tab, and both of them fill in. Again, I'm going to leave the colors for now and hit save. And now I have this event, Team Habits launch on August 1st. And magic, if you go to the Q3 planner, which is where August 1st sits, it's now living in my major events. So when I go out to plan that quarter, I'll be able to remember that is a big event for us during that quarter. All right, and then over here on the dashboard, you can pick what your main focus for this year is. This again, here you might, pick one of the values, themes, or challenges that you came up with. This might be a big project that is going to be, while you'll have multiple projects going on, there's one that you're going to keep your eye on. So for us, I'm going to put, Team Habits as our focus for the year, because that is going to be a lot of where our time, energy, and attention is going to go. All right. Then in the yearly dashboard, you'll be able to go into each quarter. And if you have a project like we do with Team Habits, you can go into each quarter and say, what are the quarter size projects that link up to the year size project? So for us, for quarter one, that might be kind of completing the manuscript and getting all final edits in to the editor, things like that. So I'm going to go into the quarterly planner, and now we can take a look at the pieces here. As you get into after the yearly planner, every one of our planners in this upper left-hand corner will remind you what you have at the higher time horizon. So right now we're looking at Q1 of 2023, and it's reminding me that I have at least one project here, have a successful launch of Team Habits here as my yearly project. This is really just to help remind you as you're planning your quarter, what is it for the year that these projects are leading me towards. And Momentum will also help you, ask you to confirm that these are happening. And this is really just to kind of set in your own mind, like, yes, these are the projects that I'm looking for the year. It doesn't mean that you can't go back and change them or add new projects. It's just making you kind of take another look at what do I have for the year before you go into your quarter. So I'm just going to hit confirm. And we did find a bug the other day in the quarterly planner. When you hit confirm, it seems like nothing happens. We are addressing that, but just so you know, if you hit refresh, it should clear that up. And I think because I have so many, I'm sharing screen, it is perhaps taking a little bit longer. So I'm going to stop sharing screen for a second. Make sure that pops back up. How is everyone doing?
Not a ton of questions, but I do have a couple, Megan, if you are available to answer them. Give me 1 second to pull those back up.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Oshi.
So we have a question about bulk duplicating. It looks like this Heather is wanting to track her goal of her workouts Monday, Wednesday, Friday. She says, if it were paper, I'd have no qualms writing it out, but on the computer, I'm looking for a shortcut. So can she bulk duplicate daily or nearly daily tasks?
Steve, can I ask you to kind of fill us in on where this sits?
Sure. Ask me the question one more time.
The creating multiple duplicates at the same time. So we have somebody wanting to track habits. Yep.
So our sort of a recurring events thing.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's definitely a Q1. It's one of the priorities we're going to be working on. We have a couple of other things ahead of it in the queue, but hopefully we'll have that for you all before the end of the first quarter.
Yeah. So at the moment, there is a way to duplicate, but just not in the bulk. So let's say I want to walk for 20 minutes a day. I can add that into my daily. And then once that's saved, I can click the 3 buttons here and I can do a lot of different elements. And one of those is duplicating that. And then what you would do is you can either, you can then move that to, I can move that to tomorrow. And so now it will sit in tomorrow as well. You can do that also at the weekly level. I think actually that might be option. You can add it as a chunk on your weekly planner and then do that duplicate. And there's an easier way to, let's say, walk 20 minutes. All right. Save. I'm going to duplicate that again. And in the weekly, you can just move it to another day. And so now I have it both in, on Sunday and on Tuesday. So if you want, for the time being, as you're planning out your week and want to track it that way, you can do it. It's probably easiest to do that duplication and moving it around on the weekly planner. And then when you go to that day, it will be in the reminder for today's projects. Is that helpful? I think it was Heather that asked that.
Yeah.
Another option.
Weekly levels worked well. She duplicated and bumped it down to later and then repeated.
Perfect.
Yeah. And then we do have another question, but Steve, what were you going to say?
So another option too, if you all are using Google Calendar, is if it's a time bound thing, you can create a recurring event in your Google Calendar, your Momentum Google Calendar, and it will populate that recurring event across whatever, if it's once a week on Mondays or whatever that recurrence is, it'll do that for you. I recognize that some of the things that y'all are talking about are not time bound in that way. They're not events as much as they are tasks that you know that you're going to do on a daily basis, but not necessarily at the same time every day. But that might be an alternate solution for you as well for some kinds of things until we get recurring events built into the tool.
Yeah, and then for those of you who do have and are using a Google account with your Momentum, this in the settings option under profile is where that Google Calendar sync up is located. I know we have a few folks here who have asked about Outlook and iCal, and that is still on the roadmap. Right now, that is though an option for those of you that have Google Calendar. All right. Any other questions, Oshi?
Yeah, sort of in a similar vein. Stacy would like to know if there is a way, and I think there is a way. The question I think is, how would you do it? If you wanted to track progress on a monthly goal, and for example, she says her goal might be to read 4 books for the month. Can she track the first book and then the second book and so on? I think you definitely can do that. It's just sort of about how you'd like to. So Megan, how would you do that?
So Steve, I'm gonna also ask for your support here, but I'm thinking how I would probably do that is I might include it as a benchmark or a milestone in my quarterly planner for the month. So say it's kind of read 3 books. I can choose if it is a milestone or a benchmark. So a milestone being a point in time, we kind of think of it as like, if you think about in medieval times, stones were actually put along the path to kind of assess that where you are. Benchmarks are more of, and that's what this one might be, is more of a percentage complete. Might be is like where you are in kind of that measure of quantity, like how many that you've read. So Steve, how would that change from a project to now that I've kind of put that as a benchmark?
I'm not sure how you're asking the question. It's just how it's going to appear on the like
monthly.
when you say that, yeah, it's how it's going to appear as a monthly.
Got it. So what
And
that
see,
will.
Yeah.
So reading 3 books. But I guess what the question was, is there a way to kind of track that progress?
Not specifically in this way. You need to create a separate, I would create a task or a sub project at whatever level makes the most sense for you, probably at the monthly level in this case, and then use that, read book 1, read book 2, read book 3, check those off. And then when you've done all 3 of them, then you're checking off this benchmark as completed.
So read 3 books would actually be more of a project then.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's go back to the quarter. This is a newer feature we just launched a few weeks ago. So that is why I am. So how do we? So just noting for the ops team, appears once you set it as a benchmark, you can't edit it from that. But what we might do is, I would say read 3 books might be the project, and read book 1 would be maybe that benchmark that you could check off. So I'm just going to do read 3 books in January. And I'm going to keep that as a project. Let me get rid of this one, clarity. So then when you go to January, you'll have your project, and indicated with this icon is to read 3 books. And then as you read, you hit the different, you can create the different benchmarks that you want to hit, and you can check those off as you hit them. So is that helpful in that kind of creation of that habit?
Yes, that makes a lot of sense.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for the question.
And it looks like I have just one more quick question. Karen would like to know the difference between a year project and a year focus.
Got it. So let me go back to the year. And I can see why you're asking that question, because I did kind of make them the same thing. A project is something that you will actually, at the year level, is trying to think of how to explain that, how to phrase it. You might have, 3 to 5 projects over the course of the year that you are actively working on, and those year projects will then break down probably into, if not all 4 quarters, multiple quarters over the course of the year. The focus, I put Team Habits, or that as our focus because I chose the project that I know that we're going to be expending a lot of our time, energy, and attention on, and we want to keep our eyes on and kind of maybe have prioritized. I might also say that my focus for the year, I might use kind of that word of the year and or a theme or something of that nature. So I might, say, find balance. And that will just kind of keep my focus on whatever I do, whatever actions I take. Am I doing that to kind of to work towards that kind of focus? It's more of what's the main thing that you want kind of to focus on. That could be a feeling, that could be a specific project, that could be a specific relationship. You really get to kind of choose your own adventure here. Projects are things that you are actually going to break down into actions over the course of the year. Does that answer the question?
I think that makes sense, Megan. I feel like it's the focus is sort of the influence on the projects that you are taking action on.
Exactly.
Love it. Karen, does that help? Awesome. She says it makes sense. Thanks so much, Megan.
Awesome. Any other questions, Oshi, that are popping up?
Not that I pulled from the chat, but if anybody has an additional question, feel free to drop that so we can answer your question.
Yeah. I'm gonna kind of keep going through then the components of the quarterly and then the monthly. And as things pop up on any of these or of the other pieces or the other planners, please do ask those questions. For the quarterly, we did kind of I showed you from the yearly how to add a project and then how to add major events. What we can do now, though, when we're adding projects, now that we've put in a year size project, we can actually link projects together. So in the quarter view, you can link your quarter size projects to your year size projects. When we get to the month, you'll be able to link it to a quarter. Projects don't necessarily need to link together. There are some projects that are going to be distinct and kind of on their own. Or projects might link together. So for us, for our, having a successful launch of Team Habits, our Q1 project might be kind of finalizing the book, the copy and the design. And that's going to then, if I click on the yearly and start typing in have a successful launch, I can click on that and that will show up as the linked, hit save. And then what I can see now is when I'm looking at this quarter's projects, I know that finalizing the book, copy and design is what I'm working on this quarter, and that links into having a successful launch of Team Habits. It also shows this little link button here that lets us know that it is a project that is linked to, you know, the next time horizon. The unique feature that we have here on the quarter planner is the review. And why we've done it on the quarter is often that kind of big, it's a big enough time perspective to kind of see significant progress or see patterns that have come up over the course of the quarter. So you can, I'm just going to move some items on my screen that are blocking my view. And so what we're asking are 3 questions. Like, so you would do this at the end of Q1, come back into your Q1 planner, and it allows you to kind of see all the things that maybe have gotten checked off the list, maybe the things that are still open, and take a look and answer these 3 simple questions. What was my top win for this quarter? What really moved me forward? And what set that up for success? You know, what allowed me to have that win? And then what do I want to improve as I move into the next quarter? So it's just a reminder to kind of, it's always good when you're doing your planning to actually do reviews of what came before to set you up for the future. So here in, you know, Q1 of 2023, I might look back to Q4 of 2022 and kind of do this reflection. And then that will help me kind of figure out what am I bringing over and what are the projects and actions that I want to take into this quarter that I'm planning out now. And over here on the right for the quarterly, you'll be able to start to plot out how does this quarter, you know, map out. So if I'm looking at, you know, my quarter size project is finalizing the book, the copy and design, and I know we're launching in August, you know, I might kind of take a look at what does that mean for January? What does that mean for February? What does that mean for March? So project here might be for February is we know that we need to have kind of the final edits to editor for Team Habits. And what I just did there is I did not start it with a verb. So is send final edits to the editor for Team Habits. Always good when you're crafting your projects to start it with a verb. And when you do that, it helps you understand what action you need to take in that time perspective. So I'll know send final edits to editor for Team Habits. That needs to happen in February. When I get into my February planning, I'll know, well, then that means I need to go in and kind of review the final manuscript. I need to, you know, check to see what that everything is cleaned up and final and sent. There's probably smaller week size projects of that I can do. It will still be for Team Habits, but the verbs will change in terms of what I need to do over the course of February in each week. And again, I can tie that to the quarter size project that we have of finalizing the book, copy and design, and hit save. All right, I'm going to now go in and let's take a look at the monthly view. Once again, it's showing me what I have for the quarter that the month is in. And it's asking me to confirm. And again, it's just a reminder to myself of this is what I have agreed to do, or this is what I'm planning to do. Again, same function is we can create those monthly size projects. And within this view, you can decide if it is that milestone, that point in time over the course of the year or if it's a benchmark, the percentage complete, or like we did before, the 1 book out of 3. And these you can also tie to the quarterly projects. And then finally, on the monthly, you have your monthly dashboard. And you can go into each week, taking a look at what's going on for the month, and go into each week and start to set up what your weeks look like. So if we go into this week's planner, again, it asks us to confirm our month's projects. It has a space to add in the projects for this week, and then scheduled events. And this is where I would probably start to add those like meetings or the key events that are happening that week, as opposed to in the yearly and the quarterly, where it was those bigger milestone moments. This might be, we have kind of the weekly team huddle, and not related to any particular project for me, but it's going to be happening. It happened on Monday, let's say at 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. And then now I can, when I go into my dashboard over here, it shows that I have an event at 4 o'clock. And if I go into my day planner, it is on my calendar over here. So everything kind of moves with you. So that kind of takes us through from yearly all the way down to daily. And we went kind of back and forth in between. What other questions or challenges or noticings have bubbled up over the last 10 minutes or so that I have been talking?
A couple questions coming in the chat.
And if anybody wants to like raise their hand and come off mute and ask directly, happy to do that as well.
Absolutely. I forgot to mention that. So yes, if you have a question, feel free to unmute. That's totally fine.
I had a question about is it supporting task and emergent task that I saw on the daily?
Yes.
What's the difference, please?
Yes. So a supporting task is something that you would attach to a project chunk. So it's similar to linking in the other planners. When you get to the daily, really, we're focusing in on either blocks or like smaller tasks in your day. But if those tasks that you're doing are linking to something that, in the week you put as something that you wanted to do on a particular day, you can link it to, so for instance, and here we have the walk 20 minutes. If on that day, maybe we added, put on shoes. I mean, we probably wouldn't put this in our planner, but I'm just kind of to link it to, so that's supporting me taking a walk. So I would add it as the project chunk, which would link to the walk for 20 minutes. The emergent tasks are, and what's going to happen is if you go into today's view, any task that you add is automatically going to pop in as emergent. And the reason we do this, so what an emergent task is, it sounds like it should be an urgent task. It's actually something that popped into your schedule that you were not planning on, but has to be dealt with and dealt with on that day. So it gives you that opportunity to just flag for yourself if you start to get a lot of tasks that you weren't expecting. It can maybe help you plan better as you move in the future. Maybe there's a certain task that keeps popping up as emergent. But if it's a regular task, it might be like, oh, something I need to remember to plan for that. So supporting is, does it support the day, like what you planned for today's projects? Emergent is, did it pop out of nowhere and I didn't realize it was coming? Those are the difference there. And sometimes you can have something that pops up as emergent that you weren't expecting that also supports the work. Does that answer the question? That
It does
can-
perfectly. Thank you very much.
Awesome, thank you. Heather, you have your hand raised. You just need to come off of mute if you can.
There we go. Oh, I could not find out where to push that button to come off mute. Thank you, whoever popped that button up for me. My question may be a little bit more of a newbie or non-app oriented, but where I think I'm struggling is I have a lot of annual goals, but a lot of, or projects, but a lot of them they may be better to collapse into quarterly. You know, I have a financial goal of how much I'd like to earn, but then I also have to have a consistently emailing my list, you know, 42 weeks out of 52, batching my monthly social media content every month all year. So I wonder if, although I've totally blown the 5 project guideline, what merit is there in collapsing them, or am I trying to do too much, which is part of why this system works?
It could be. What I will say is many of the things that you've talked about are kind of creating routines. Sometimes the creation of the routine is a quarter-sized project in and of itself, is kind of getting ourselves into the routine and actually doing it and maybe adjusting along the way according to what we find. But then as we get into it and it just becomes a routine, it still is kind of laddering into work that we need to do. What I would do is ask yourself, from a yearly perspective, what is that connecting to? You know, like that, the action of, you know, being on social media or sending out a newsletter. What is that bigger picture, higher order reason that you're doing that? And that probably is, you know, it might be connecting with my audience. That might be the bigger picture goal. And how you do that over your weeks and your days and your months would be kind of in that routine that you do need to find space for. And it depends on, you know, how much time that takes. I would say if it's something that you're not currently doing, but wanting to get into, maybe put it in as a quarter goal to start a habit of doing X. And then month 1 is, you know, kind of getting yourself into it. Like, what do I need to do in order to do it, to get into that habit, trying it out. Month 2 might be assessing, what did I learn from month 1? What do I need to adjust? And month 3 could be just kind of finalizing that habit so it does become that ongoing routine down the line. Does that help?
That helps. I think I need to still just kind of ruminate on that a little bit. But what you're saying is think more broadly about the really big impact that I'm looking for at the end of the year.
Yeah.
Your suggestion was like to reach out to my audience, but for me, it could be to feel a great deal of ease in the running of my business, which would include the projects of regularly emailing without it feeling really unwieldy.
Exactly. Yeah. What we like to use SMART goals, but not in the traditional sense, if you're familiar with SMART goals. So
yes,
our
I'm
SMART
familiar with your SMART goals, which I love so much
Yes.
better than the old version.
So, and for anybody on the call not familiar, we have changed the M and the T of the SMART goals. So SMART goals need to be simple, meaning that you can clearly understand, like by reading them. They need to be, we say meaningful, where most people say measurable, because like I just, you know, showed, there's always that kind of higher order meaning. And if we know the meaning behind why we're doing something, we're more likely to do it. Actionable, that's hence the verb that I said to is really good to use, helps us direct what that action is. Realistic. If I'm putting it in, you know, a week, but it really is going to take me a month, is it realistic? Should I move it up a month? And then instead of the time bound, which is the traditional SMART goal construct, we do trackable, because sometimes if one of your yearly goals, your yearly projects is around a feeling or relationships, time bound is less important than maybe something that you might track along how you feel over the course of the year, or the strength of bonds of the relationships that you might build if that's the project. So thank you, Heather, for your questions. Anything else we can help you with?
Other than how to mute, honestly, I usually I run Zoom meetings all the time. I don't know where something is different with the interface today.
I can take care of that for you. Thank you
I
so
appreciate
much.
that, Megan. Thank
All right. Any other questions, Oshi, from the chat with our last few minutes?
Yeah, we do just have about 4 minutes left. So if there are any last minute questions, now would be a great time. It looks like April was curious about how, if we delete one meeting from our daily dashboard, does it delete it elsewhere?
From the daily dashboard. I guess I'm trying to think of where else it might be. I think, let's see.
I think it pulls up in the weekly for like scheduled events.
So scheduled events we have here, and let's see, we have this scheduled for the 2nd. So let's test it out. I believe usually I think they will be linked. So you can't actually delete it from your dashboard. So you would actually have to delete it from the week. And it probably doesn't appear elsewhere, but if you delete it from the week, so I'll do that here, it's gone from my week. And then if I go back into Monday the 2nd, it's also gone from my dashboard. Does that help, April?
Perfect.
Awesome. All right. Any final questions before I let everyone go, and we can kind of do some final housekeeping? But if there's another question.
If anyone wants to go ahead and drop what you got out of this, or if you found this helpful in the chat, we would love some feedback on that. And then it looks like Keith does have one last question. All
right, Keith, bring us home.
Something that he's seen in the quarterly planning is the review. Can you speak about the appropriate time frame for the review within quarterly?
Yeah, so that is what we saw here, where it's that kind of, your top win, what set you up for success, and how to improve. This for me is based off of, I think I like to do my quarterly planning the week prior to the quarter starting. You might like to do your quarterly planning the first week of the quarter. So I think when you're doing your planning ahead is when I would do the review, because really, like I said earlier, doing a review of what happened is going to help you kind of address and plan for what is to come. So I would suggest doing this at the same time you're doing your next quarter's planning. So for me, that's usually a good size focus block. And it might even be 2 focus blocks. Maybe you do 1 focus block for the review, 1 focus block for the plan, and do that the week prior to the quarter start. All righty.
Thank you, Megan. We did have a couple of last minute questions come in. Do you have a moment to answer them, or should we follow? We can follow up with you guys individually as well. But Megan, what are you feeling?
I am happy to stay on. I recognize, though, that everyone I want to be mindful of everyone's time. So what I will do is if anybody wants to hang for the next 10 minutes, happy to do so. Let everybody know we're going to be having our next webinar on Friday, the 20th at 2 p.m. Eastern. And we're going to be going over the getting started. And so it'll probably be a lot of similar to this format here, but more focused in on the week and the day, and opening it up to any and all questions that you might have in getting yourself started with momentum. So with that, if you need to drop, happy to have you do so. If you want to hang on and ask questions, also happy to do that for the next 10 minutes.
Great, thank you, Megan. Just it looks like I did miss a question. How is it possible, or is it possible, to define an event across multiple days? Is that something we can do here?
Unfortunately, at the moment, it is not. And Steve, if there's any more to that you want to add, I know in the quarter and the year is probably when you might want to do that. Say you're taking a vacation. Unfortunately, at the current moment, it is, date and time bound. So you might need to do it for a full day and then just hit the duplicate button. So for instance, if we were launching multiple days, I could hit duplicate and then I might go in, edit, and then just change the date to, the next day. Steve, any other solves for that or plans for updates in the future?
No, that's the solution for right now, is that you just need to establish it as each day that you, so if it's a week's vacation, you need to set yourself each day, Monday through Friday.
Yep.
We've been having some conversations about how to apply this via the calendar sync, and how we'll support multi-day events, but don't have a clear solution for that. There's a lot of complexity in terms of how different calendar programs support different ways that they do recurring events, do multi-day events, and so on, that we've got to work through in terms of what we want Momentum to, and how we want Momentum to handle. So more to come as we're integrating those other calendar programs and figuring out how those are all play.
Awesome. Thank you, Steve.
Yeah, it was a great question. Other two questions that I'm seeing from
Okay.
Lloyd and from Peter. I believe Peter may have dropped off, but Lloyd is still around. Now, Steve, I know that we've talked about this before. What is the best way to get an overview of all of your goals?
Oh, so this was the question. If I think I know what you're asking. So some folks have requested to see, is there a way to see if I have a quarterly project that's broken into monthly, that's broken into weekly, that's broken into daily? How do I look at all of that and see what's there? So there, right now, there isn't at present a view for that. That's a future enhancement that I really want us to build, because I really want it. And so sort of that top-down planning area or bottom-up area, depending on your preference, or middle-in planning area, if you're Megan. But what you can do kind of as a cheat is if you go to whatever the highest level project is that you're talking about. So say it's a quarter, and then you click the little archive button to open up the archive.
Yep.
If you had something in there that you had planned to archive, it would show there. In this case, we would need a project as an example. There we go.
We'll archive this quarter size project, which is linked to a month size project. So if we hit archive and confirm archive, now you'll notice it's no longer here. And if you actually go into February, which is where I think that linked one was, that is no longer here. But what we can do is go into archive and click on archive. And then we can decide where do we want to move it. Because it was a quarter size project, we can decide if we still want that to be Q1, or maybe we move it to Q2.
And all of the attached items will be listed underneath where it says attached.
Correct.
So that's
And
sort of
actually,
the cheat, the runaround.
Yep. If you're just looking to see them and you don't even need to archive necessarily, you just click that archive.
Okay.
You just click that archive
Let's do that.
selection, if you will.
I'm gonna do that one more time. So here it's still in your planner, but by moving it to the archive kind of preview, if you will, it's showing you that your quarter size project is this, and the attached is, is this sending final edits.
Exactly. And so you may have, multiple levels with multiple sub projects and tasks, all of which would appear connected here. So at least for now, that's an interim solution for you to be able to see everything from top down.
Yeah, and Lloyd, you've actually got my wheel spinning. What we're also going to be doing is, if for those of you familiar with Productive Flourishing, which is Momentum, came out of our Momentum planning method that started in Productive Flourishing, we have a lot of worksheets. So they're more either fillable PDFs, or if you happen to like pen and paper, where we can kind of help with that planning process. So you have my mind working on how we might even, if you wanted just to have a, in the interim, again, until we're able to have these kind of, top down, bottom up, like Steve said, planning structures in the app itself. We'll be including resources like that over on hellomomentum.app on our website. So thank you for the question. And also, Steve, thanks for the kind of workaround there. That was one I didn't know with the archive.
Always some sort of shortcut.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like we just have one last question from Peter. He did hop off, but hopefully he's able to watch the recording.
Yeah.
And, this will probably be helpful for other people too. He's wondering, how do you deal with a year-sized project that doesn't actually align to the calendar year?
Got it. It's one of those things that I love that you're asking this question, Peter, because we do not need to tie our lives to the calendar, but because it is a construct that exists, that is how we built Momentum. So what I would say is, if it goes from June, of this year to June of next year, then, you have two options there. You can put it in as one of your yearly projects, but just wait until June when you have space to add it in. And then, use those last 2 quarters of the year to kind of fill it out. And then when the new year starts, you can do that again. And then if it's done in June of 2024, well, you've clicked off a year-size project in June. So it's kind of, you don't have to fit it in to start a year-size project in January. You also might have a year-size project that starts in March and ends in December, so there's definitely ways to work around that. I would encourage using the quarterly probably for those, but if you want to account for it in your year, putting it into the year, either at the back end or the start or wherever that overlap happens, so that you have it kind of listed there. So hopefully that that answers Peter's question. And Peter and everybody else, thank you for hanging out with us. If you have any questions about what we covered today, or if something else pops up, please do email us at support@productiveflourish. Oshie, I'm going to ask you to put that in the chat. It's support@hellomomentum.app. And I think with that, if there's nothing else, thank you, Steve. Appreciate all of you being here. If you have questions, if you have something that you really appreciated about today, please do, share it at support@hellomomentum.app. And Kat just put in the chat a resource page that goes into kind of provide you with direct links to some blog posts that we have up on hellomomentum.app, our website, that might help you further in your getting started with Momentum. So thank you everyone for joining us, and have a wonderful rest of this first week of the year. All right. Bye, everyone.